I don't know how we link back to the Caedrel leak DMs after that. But
no, I think we should talk about
here's how you tie it in. So basically, if people don't know, Caedrel, not that long, it was during the off season, was doing some streaming, and on his stream, he showed what was supposedly a leaked DM by a private account on Instagram, which purports to be the sister of Danny, right? This person called Jacqueline Kamasaki or whatever his name, I think that's his surname, right? And basically, in these DMs, she lays out this case that like he had problems and the parents know about it and they've already approached EG and they're going through the player association and that people are trying to whistle, all this sort of stuff like that. Now, here's what's very interesting about the response to that particular leak was I made a very clear distinction in my video here that I think people maybe missed why I kept stressing it so much. Evil Geniuses has never addressed the statements from Danny's family. In fact, they have never addressed it in any context. They've never even said if that's real or not. But what they did do was do a video when Nicole LaPointe Jameson, in a very candid way on a Twitter video, addresses how disappointing this is and, you know, how, and talks about how they supported Danny. Now, what's clever is at the end of this, if you listen very carefully, Alex listens to specific words. If he does at the end say about, like, you know, supporting players and their families, which almost implies like the player's family isn't what she's addressing. But if you know the context, it's like what Monty was talking about with Danny's tweets coming after my video. Just after this, the furore caused around these DMs is why she's making the video. And in the video where she talks about how these like accusations or whatever are like false or it's not true or something, what it's supposed to do, my speculation, is get someone who doesn't as carefully read as I do into the context to think she's addressing the DM. And that means the DM is either fake or it's just not true. But what's interesting is that detail in itself, Monty. If Danny has access to his Twitter account, he can go ahead and let us know it's not his sister, can he? Because I saw people, and this is where, by the way, I hate this behavior on Reddit, is where people were trying to, even though they have no inside info, concoct reasons that this is all fine. So you'll have seen a million of them, Richard, where they were going, why did she call him Danny if that's his sister? Well, one, already Danny's done that silly thing that some pro players do, where they pick a real first person's name, but that's not their name. Spoiler, when that happens, I mean, you know this, Monty, I don't think I've ever called you Christopher in your entire life. Does that mean we're not actually friends? Do I not actually know your name? You know what I mean? Like,
here's a fact. When my wife is around other esports people, she calls me Monty and not Christopher because that's how people in the industry know me. That's what my wife calls me.
I stopped with the real name thing after I called you Chris one time and you lost your shit. So I was like, yo, fucking Monty
yeah,
then, homie. Like,
so first of all, I didn't think that was even weird. Like, actually, I would say that is how family people would talk. They would talk with the term you think of the person by. Because actually the joke is, if she'd have put Kyle, you'd go, who the fuck's Kyle? Oh, wait, that's Danny. That's what you do, wouldn't you? So first of all, that's nothing. And then secondly, the absolute radio silence beyond that sort of sneaky way of maybe seeming like you rebutted it. I think that's mad sus in itself, mate. Where's Danny's comment on that? Where's his comment on, don't worry about the statements by my sister. You know, she just misunderstood. Nothing. You get nothing. She told on
herself a little bit though, Duncan, you see, because why did she bring up HIPAA? I always wondered about that until I got all the pieces together and put the report out. Because she said, I'd love to be transparent, but I can't. There's laws to think about and there's HIPAA to think about. Right? So if you're bringing up HIPAA, that immediately implies it's something to do with medical stuff, right? So why not just say, like, I can't be transparent? What that implies to me is, by the way, that one strategy they explored was potentially saying he's got this condition and therefore we have to be absolved. That's the only explanation for inserting the HIPAA thing into the conversation, which, by the way, I don't even think is accurate.
Either way, with the DM thing, there is absolutely no scenario I can fathom in my head where if someone fake came out and misrepresented being a member of your family, regardless of what it was they said or didn't say, that is not immediately refuted and said, no, guess what? That's not my sister. There's no way. So it's obvious.
So
obviously his fucking sister, isn't it? Obviously his sister. The idea that there was like this big back and forth Reddit, like, but why would she use this terminology? And if she is, then maybe we Google Map and show where he lives.
I was given a no comment when I asked about the DMs as well.
So. Obviously,
but again, a no comment. They didn't go, but that wasn't us, though. You know what I mean? Like, again,
imagine that. But anyone listening or watching, whatever, imagine, put yourself in that position. Some lunatics come out claiming to be your sister and making loads of crazy claims. Like, at a minimum, even if you didn't want to indulge the arguments, you'd be like, that's not my sister, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
let me just read what his sister wrote in these leaked DMs to Caedrel, who, if you don't know, is one of the biggest like LoL esports streamers and is a commentator. He's a caster on the European League LEC. Yeah, EG isn't all love and family as they make it seem. Our mom is actually talking to someone from the Players Association, but I don't think anything will happen since Danny doesn't want to make a big deal about anything. He just wants to keep things quiet. Remember, this is my commentary. Remember, he's also a guy who has had a lot of stress and wanted to retire, right? So this totally tracks. Okay, back to the message. Yeah, it's a big sign for Impact not to re-sign with EG. Things are just so bad there. Again, as an aside, Impact is the top laner who left EG during this offseason. So she's implying that things are so bad that Impact wants to get off the team. He now plays for FlyQuest instead. Back to the message. Yeah, a lot of people have the wrong narrative, but at this point, it's too late to change it. EG has been keeping everyone quiet. For example, Danny had a laning coach, and the coach got fired for standing up for Danny and going to the Players Association for him. That's how fucked up EG is. Yes, we tell him all the time that he has many fans that still love watching him play and support him, but the damage has already been done by EG, and if anything, he'll try streaming on Twitch to see if he would like to do that instead, but in the meantime, he's just enjoying life and getting healthy. Now, all of this tracks with the information that we have. It's entirely
the streaming part.
Yeah, even the streaming part. Like, it actually has become a prophecy that has been true. Impact did leave the team. You know, Impact went over was looking at options on other teams, despite being a core part of a championship roster that EG was fielding. And EG keeping people quiet, Danny not wanting to make a big deal out of it because he doesn't want to be in the center of this drama, which also aligns with what Danny himself is saying after this information has come out. And that people were punished for trying to stand up for him. His personal coach, his laning coach, was punished for trying to go to the Players Association. Because,
and again, that's something that's super checkable if you're like an insider, and no one would bother to make up if they didn't know. Like, that would be such a stupid thing to make up because it's so.
If you look at it historically as well, the laning coach was removed from the org just a few days after Danny was dropped. So again, it's like another little detail in this. Like, if this was an inspect element fake out, this person like needs to be like, holy shit, you should be informing all the orgs what to do. Like, your vision, like the
here's the obvious joke. They should be hire Danny's sister to write for EG, because in this scenario, whoever faked the tweet, actually, unlike you, EG marketing person, understands the concept of theory of mind that other people are sentient humans and wouldn't write in PR speak. So in their private message, they wrote it just like a concerned sister might, while leaking something to someone in a frustrated manner. They didn't write it like Danny did, like, and I hope y'all will stay with me, guy. Like, they didn't do that shit, did they?
Well, and let's
it's actually a very well written fake tweet.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the psyop is real. But I have to say, like, even if this was fake, the thing is that it still contains information that we now know to be true that could not have been known at the time that this was written. So if it was faked, it was still faked by somebody who knew what the fucked up shit going at the organization was.
It was either his sister or it was the laning coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the two options.
And by the way, one thing we didn't hit earlier that is in Richard's article and my video as well is that it isn't just as simple as the pressure comes top down from the call and Gamerdoc and these people in the executive positions. No. Part of the pressure came internally and surrounding this guy. He was being fucked on all sides, because one of the worst scenarios, if you're a rookie player, and I know LCS counts rookie as you've played that split. I count rookie by the fucking colloquial use of the English language. He is a very young player who is inexperienced. He is a rookie by definition, right? So when you have a rookie, young NA talent, remember, those are the spots where, like Monty said, they can be very valuable. They can also be the obvious liabilities to your team. If you're playing on a team that features inspired, legendary Polish jungler who's been to Worlds a bunch of times, and literally, by the way, was the MVP of the league the previous split. You've got Impact, actual world champion, one of the most decorated players ever, legend of the LCS region, many championships in LCS. If you have players of this caliber, you know what? Pressure can come from those players, especially if the messaging from the org is, oh, we're hearing that you're saying there's problems with these players, and maybe some of you think he shouldn't be able to play with the team anymore because he's not going to be available for playoffs, or he needs to quit. Let's get another person in. No, we're going to make you keep playing with him. And like I said in my video, maybe we're even going to finesse you a little bit on when he exactly is going out and when if he ever is playing again. And we're going to do all that. So at the end of the split, first of all, you're gagged because it would be career suicide to publicly come out and go, my teammate quit the team and it fucked everything up. That's why I didn't win. You can't say that, but that's what you feel. And I can tell you, I had to be very careful how I phrase this. And I noticed Richard was careful too, because I don't want to give too much away about who's who and who might have thought what. But spoiler, there are certain players within that team who they're as bad as some of the people on Reddit, mate. Their take really is sort of like, look, I'm here to be a top pro. Get anyone who can't handle the pressure the fuck out the team. Some of those people did have that vibe. They were quite cynical, and they are people who they clearly view playing just as a playing career. Maybe they're not about like we're family and all that jazz, but fair play, at least they're up front. If you then, by the way, act the way EG did, you're just cranking up the pressure via those people onto Danny. And eventually, no wonder he's feeling like, fuck, do I like not play and then help my own health, or do I play and then do I need to help this guy? And what, fucking hell, I think the pressure cooker this guy was in wasn't like a normal player just playing League or just a young player, a rookie. Like, this sounds like one of the worst handlings of someone in this situation. Like, it sounds like essentially, like, the joke is you almost created the nightmare scenario for this guy. And the idea you were helping him, I don't know how you could think that, because you helped establish this thing. That's why for me it's so key that we establish this wasn't just before he played Team Liquid in the last series that he was like, look, I just need a break right now, please. That wasn't what happened. When you know this is months and months in the making, and like Richard said, they already had a sense of who he was and what his difficulties were, and he had people who knew his background beforehand, and they were not only that, instructing players and staff. This is just the way he is. It's not the case that there's a problem. Like I say, you created that environment, guys. This isn't just one bad actor. This isn't just one mistake. This is like a systemic approach which cannot be allowed to continue.
Indeed. Do you guys have any final takes here as we close up the show? Any final topics that you think we need to address on this?
I just want to hear Rich say something, because I feel like we talked way too much compared to him this episode. I guess me and Duncan were fucking on one. So,
I mean, I don't know, I think you guys have covered it basically. Like, I think something that's, I guess, important to sort of umbrella or underline here as well is that this is the current thing that you're hearing about, but don't kid yourself that it's like this is the one really bad thing that's been going on recently. There will be parallel stories very akin to this in a whole bunch of other organizations. There won't be just one or two here or there, like a whole fucking bunch. And don't just think again of like the absolute top tier where the most visibility is in the scene, right? Like, think of all the fucking ERL teams. Think of all those. They're basically living sort of 10 years ago in terms of like they're just starting to have gaming houses. They're just starting to have more staff and, some of the right people involved, some of the wrong people involved. Like, there are players being abused to a different varying degrees, right? All over the space. And some of them you will never, unfortunately, even hear about. So it's so much as this is like specifically about Danny, I think it's more about trying to get people to understand that this is a real thing that actually happens, or some very similar things happen all the time. And again, that's one of the reasons as well why you don't let it go. You're not just fighting that individual battle, it's that you're hoping that via, diffusion, if not anything else, that there will be ripples that, positively affect other situations of this ilk.
Yeah. And also, if you are part of if you're part of an org that does have issues that you know about, you should realize that you can always come to me or Richard or Thorin and confidentially give information, because we are one of the very few places that will make sure that your ass is covered. Your identity remains secret. We're very professional about this. We don't even talk to each other about sources. That's not something that we do.
Yeah, by the way, if anyone's wondering, me and Richard didn't say a single source.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, when like the timing of everything sort of makes it look like me and Dunk were sat together, right? You do it, none of that. Like, it was just, I guess people have hit an impasse with what they're comfortable with in regards to the EG management, and they're talking. And by the way, I talked to a lot of other journalists. I was told today there are at least 2 other journalists investigating other things to do with EG.
Oh, okay.
So, and they didn't specify what they were, just that they were working on some stories, again, about, it could be anything from common or garden ineptitude to something more sinister. But, the hits are going to keep coming. This has been a dysfunctional organization for a long, long time. And I think people have just hit an impasse with what they're happy to sleep on.
What you're saying, Monty, is we need some sort of like a hotline that people could call if something really important is happening in the league. Yeah, I agree that should exist in the space. With really legit journalists manning the fort, of course.
My final thought would be this, and to echo Rich's sentiments, I get depressed and seriously disturbed when I work on stories like this. It makes me physically ill. I have a stress ulcer, and I don't know, I sort of empathize what it must be like, and I've been very close to a lot of people who've been had difficult times in esports, and it fucking it's not pleasant to have to write these stories, but it's imperative that they get told. And so sort of as an extension of goodwill, given that this is like I say, we're half a dozen that I've just reported on stories. I even sadly forgot that we did also have a former League of Legends player, Ku, commit suicide. Just Riot, you can definitely do something about this. You can create a player liaison officer role tomorrow. Not one of your sinister red shirt snitches that go around people's houses to find secrets so you can kick people out of a league so you can give it to your friends. I'm talking about a real qualified player liaison officer. You can create that tomorrow. You can go into these team houses and talk to these players and help them. You can instead of doing a Reginald tip line, you can do a fucking psychological help hotline. You can do all of these things. You've got all the money in the world, all the resources. If you truly believe in the sentiment that these players make your game, then help them and help them continue to make your game a better place. If this doesn't prompt you to do that, I can only assume you don't care.
Fair enough.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.